KPCA LP, Petaluma, California.
Petaluma.
Hello, Petaluma.
How's everybody out
Baby, it's cold outside.
Baby, is it cold
It's
out there?
cold.
Oh, it's getting cold outside.
Don't leave yet, Matt. It's cold outside.
Hey, listeners, welcome to Two Mooks and a Mic.
Yeah, welcome. It's another Friday, Matt.
That's right, and that's
Dang.
Jim Thomas over there.
And Matt McGuire speaking back then.
And then now we are your co-hosts.
Yeah, we're co-hosts. Kind of like the Catholic Church having co-hosts, right? It'd be two wafers at once. We're so holy.
You'd be saved doubly. 2 times over, just in case that first one doesn't stick.
Either that or
the next one will do it.
Either that or we'll all go to heck. One of the two. So Matt, we have a full thing this week, I think, just like every week.
Every week,
we're never at a loss for words.
That's right. Well, Jim, actually, you have your Santa, your furry Santa hat on. That means you're warm, but. How about that? I mean, now that song, "Baby, It's Cold Out There," is making a big splash.
You know, Matt, I'm so upset. It's a nice thing. It's beautiful. There's Lady Gaga did a video of it, boys and girls. If you check it out on YouTube, she does it, I think, with Tony Bennett. And you said it's with some other actor.
But no, I mean, the song was written by
Lester, L-O-E-S-T-E-R, I think.
Yeah, or
Loser,
L-O-E-S-E-R, Loser. And his wife. He and his wife wrote it together.
Mr. and Mrs. Loser.
And back then, what was it, the 30s or something?
Yeah.
You know, the entertainers were expected when you went to a party to put on a little show.
Nice.
And he and his wife
would do in your shows.
That's right. When my wife and I go to parties, it's like, come on, baby, listen. Wow.
You wear your slinky dress?
Yeah, I do, and it looks good in it too.
You do look good. Anyway, Baby, It's Cold Outside.
Well, so they would perform this at parties, and their daughter, who's still alive, says they were the rage, the social circuit.
I'd love to
People, they got invited to all the, what does she say, the caviar and champagne parties based on their little, production of this sweet song, which is it's romantic.
It is.
And I guess the issue, some in the Me Too movement are saying that she keeps saying no, he keeps saying yes, but at the same time, she's not entirely against wanting to say.
She could walk out the door.
Yeah.
Right?
And so she's saying, well, some of the reasons I'm saying no are because I have this vicious aunt, and, my sister will worry. Those are not reasons for her personally.
It's just thinking of somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but Matt, the thing is, I mean, I understand the argument against it, but on the other hand, how are people going to flirt? I mean, maybe this isn't considered flirting anymore. Maybe I'm just too dang old.
Or maybe we just come from the last century where this is okay. But I think it's going to weather the storm.
Matt, remember what Dorothy Parker said. Flirtation is attention without intention. And that's great, right? That's the way it should be.
Those are wise words to live by.
Dorothy Parker, that's right.
Yeah, what do you think, listeners?
Call us. Call your opinion.
We don't have a phone line here, but you can call us later.
Yeah, call us. Text Matt.
Email us.
Yeah, please do.
Well, Jim, it has, like you mentioned, there's been plenty going on as usual.
Yeah, we're not bored.
Some of it's been really interesting.
Yes.
Did you catch Donald, the Tangerine Turd Trump's live meeting with Chuck Schumer
and the reality show? Yes, the
unreal reality show.
The Donnie, the Chucky and Nancy show.
Donnie, Chucky, Nancy.
Yeah.
God, it was bizarre.
It totally backfired on him.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the great thing was, Nancy Pelosi stood out, even though she got interrupted by Trump over and over again.
Talked over, just like I do you sometimes. My apologies, Matt.
And I to you, vice versa.
Yeah, thank you.
We're guys,
we can do that.
Guilty as
We're mansplaining a lot. Let's talk with our knees together and see how the show changes.
Okay. My voice has changed.
Well, you've changed. Put that dress back on, man.
Anyway, she did a good job of saying, hey, look, your little index cards are baloney. You're making up these numbers.
Right, that's right.
And, that what they succeeded in doing was getting Trump to say, I'm proud to shut down the government to build my wall for $5 billion that Mexico won't pay for.
That's right.
I mean, what an
idiot.
Into
the trap. Let's get the press. It's called transparency, Nancy. Transparency.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, He's not going to get that wall. He's not going to get it in this lame duck Congress. And she's going, you don't have the numbers. I've got the numbers, Nancy. It's like, yeah, Donnie,
and even when she said we took over the House of Representatives, you don't have the numbers. He says, I got the numbers. Okay, let's just analyze this for a second. If he does have the numbers in the House of Representatives while this lame duck session,
before the end of the year,
right before they switch over, the House of Representatives does that. Yeah. Congress, Senate hasn't changed over yet, so he needs how many Democrats?
60. He needs 60 votes. So
60 votes. 10 Democrats to do that, which ain't going to happen.
No way.
So it's not going to happen.
No way. But even when they pick up the Senate seat for next year, they still need 60 votes in the Senate.
They still need 60 in the Senate. Yeah. And he's changed his tune. First he said Mexico's going to pay for it, and it's not going to. The taxpayers won't pay for it. And now, of course, it's the taxpayers who pay for it.
Right. Exactly. I hope all his Trump supporters are taking that to heart and looking at their grim future and being the losers in the rigged economy, which is rigged, but not the way he says, and go, oh, good, so we're just getting screwed by the crook again.
I have relatives who are of the Trump ilk.
They're just blinded.
No, they are blinded, and they like the whole thing with climate change. They're saying, oh well, everything bounces back. The stock market's diving; it bounces back. It happens before.
And the climate will too.
They say we're on the cusp of a recession, Matt. That this is the spiraling down. So buy gold and stick it in your mattress. Yeah. Lumpy sleeping, but so what?
Yeah, exactly. One thing I was a little disappointed about that whole performance was that neither Pelosi nor Schumer challenged Trump when he started spewing those lies about the horrible threat and the murderers are coming in and they're bringing tons of drugs and they have contagious illnesses and it's like why don't they just go, where do you get your information?
Well, she did say something. She called him on his index cards, which their figures are really wrong.
Yeah.
Plus,
that didn't relate to reality.
No, they didn't. Nancy kept saying, this is not an appropriate discussion to have in front of the press. Yeah. And then Trump says, well, it's called transparency. So he's trying he was trying to trap them. Yeah. It didn't work.
No, he ended up with his leg in
the vice. Yeah.
He made claims like, oh, they've caught 10 terrorists already.
Yep.
It's like, really?
Yeah. Really?
That's funny. Nobody seems to know about any terrorists being caught.
No.
Maybe those were those little kids that stormed the border.
Kids. Yeah, right. Speaking of little kids, man, I'm sure you read in the headlines today, a 7-year-old girl. Yes, and I read the details about it. She died.
She died in custody.
She died in custody, and supposedly when they're taken in, they're supposed to be given food and water.
And she died of dehydration.
Dehydration. That's correct. They did not offer her any food or any water. She was taken to the hospital and died. They revived her several times, at least once. Didn't make it.
Yeah, that's a real heartbreaker.
It's a heartbreaker. Again, it's
that blood is on Donald Trump's hands.
Yes, and do you think he cares? No.
Also, but also every one of his swamp dwellers. Kirstjen Nielsen, the head of Homeland Security.
Yes, the lying Kristen. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's their policies.
And who's the guy who has who's like the nefarious guy and actually does the anti-immigration plans? I can't.
Oh, you mean Stephen Miller in the White
House?
Thank you,
Miller. Yes, yeah. I was thinking, Matt, because he's now doing this thing where he's going to be attacking the Vietnam veterans.
Yeah,
the refugees from the Vietnam War
who've been here since the 70s.
I know. Now
they're going to deport them.
Yes, I have a colleague who's an art teacher in Mill Valley, and she came over on a boat from Vietnam. Does that mean that she and her husband and her baby will have to go back?
Potentially.
So, Miller, is there anything that he's doing that's illegal? That's what I want him to swing.
I do too.
At least be in jail. Yeah. I'm not against the death penalty except for certain cases.
Well, it's been interesting too, Jim, because this week what's going on? I mean, there's so much stuff. So much of the crap is hitting the fan.
Yeah.
So you see like Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, is getting 3 years in prison, and he totally caught to being guilty of trying to cover up the payments to the women that Trump had affairs with, specifically to protect him in the election, and they are really illegal campaign contributions.
Correct, which is against the law. Yeah. And he said Trump did indeed. Of course, he knew about that.
Yes, and the limit per person is $2,700. These like $135,000.
Right. $150,000.
And then so you've got that. And the other big news is that the David Pecker, aptly named the head of American Media, the owner of the National Enquirer, has
Trump's buddy for many, many years.
For decades, couple decades, he's been doing the capture and kill story.
Capture and kill, capture and bury, whatever it's called.
Yeah,
yes.
they pay people for their story and then
Susan
they don't
McDougal.
run it. Yeah,
they
exactly.
don't Google, right?
Yeah.
They don't. Right, and they pay her off, and they
and get her to sign an agreement, and then
correct.
they don't run the story.
They don't run the story, and he's been doing that for Trump for many, many years.
That's right.
And he's flipped, which surprised me that he flipped so easily.
Well,
what a snowflake.
I mean, and the sickening part, of course, is when you see all this. I mean, and this happens over and over.
Yeah.
It just makes me sick every time I read about it.
Yeah.
Is that federal prosecutors, when they get somebody to flip and do a deal with them, they oftentimes give them immunity.
Yes,
and
like
this guy,
Flynn.
And Pecker is getting immunity. He and his top lieutenants will not be able to be prosecuted.
Not under the feds, but the SDNY, the Southern District of New York, they apparently are furious, and they are coming after all these henchmen of Trump, and they can get him in civil.
But not specifically Pecker and the National Enquirer.
Unless it's based in New York somehow.
Well, I'm sure that is in New York, but I haven't seen anything that says they're going after them.
Not yet.
But we'll see. Now,
Maybe early Christmas.
Yeah.
Please, Santa.
But Pecker admits that the paying off the two women was specifically to silence them to protect Trump during the campaign.
During the campaign, that's the key right there.
150,000 here. I mean,
130,000 there.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I mean, this is really building up. Now, Michael Cohen, he was being prosecuted from two different angles. One of them was the Mueller investigation. Right. For lying to Congress,
that's the feds.
And he lied to that Mueller's separate from the federal justice.
Oh, okay, got it.
So
there's three.
Mueller was it's two, but so Mueller was saying that he was going after him for lying to Congress about the timing of the Moscow Trump Tower deal,
which it didn't go through. However, the intention was still there. It would have happened had he not.
And he lied to Congress about the fact that they were working that deal, during the campaign. And then the federal prosecutors were going after him for tax evasion and fraud and those crimes. And so, he got two different recommendations for sentencing. Mueller's investigation said he's cooperated with us. You might give him some break there. But the federal prosecutor said he didn't cooperate that much with us. He only was willing to talk about certain things, the tax evasion, whatever, but he didn't talk about all the stuff we wanted from him. Lock him up.
Well, is it the federal prosecutors, or was it the Southern District of New York that's doing that?
Well, that would be the federal prosecutors.
Okay, so that's the second one. That's the SDNY, and they're the ones with the teeth, and they're the ones that are furious, and they're the ones that are going to get these charges to stick. Even though Mueller is a little bit more sympathetic, perhaps because they're getting so much information from these people.
because they have been cooperating with him.
And I can understand a certain leeway, but not getting him off the hook altogether.
But all this is making Trump very nervous.
Yes, it is, because the circle is closing.
And so, like, for one thing, after the reality show, the Nancy Chucky Donnie show, apparently when he left and went up, he had a file full of papers and he threw them in frustration. It was like,
what a snowflake!
What
a baby!
Grow up,
baby!
God,
take the pacifier. Change your nappies.
Exactly, but people inside the White House say he's getting nervous about the potential for impeachment.
I'm getting nervous about the potential for impeachment.
I'm getting excited about that.
Well, easy man. I don't want Pence to be president.
Well, I would take Pence over Trump.
Really?
I would. He's a freaky, wacky, religious.
Yeah, really creepy.
But what do you think? I mean, so everything you see Donald Trump do, whenever he's confronted or attacked, he has gone ballistic.
Yeah, crazy town.
And so he's the guy that the real danger here is that as the news tightens and people close in on him,
he's going to be thrashing out and lashing out.
And he can declare a national emergency, which give him, huge dictatorial powers.
Which means that, from many analysts are saying, as long as he's president, he can't be prosecuted.
Right.
But once he becomes a public citizen again, then the SDNY will grab him. Or others. So all he has to do is just say, I'm going to be president for life. You can't touch me.
Yeah.
I could see him doing something.
With the declaration of a national emergency, he has the ability to freeze anybody's bank account in the country, any person or corporation or company.
That's it. I'm putting my gold bullion under my mattress.
You better, get a big one. He can control the media. He can control the internet. It's all, he can, raid people's houses, take over businesses. I mean, basically, under a national emergency, he's got really, extreme dictatorial powers.
If people let it go that far. If this is a scenario, of course, we're fantasizing in a bad fantasy, but if it happens, would the military follow his rules?
Well, that's a big question. I mean, he is, quote-unquote, the commander-in-chief, and the military is trained to follow orders.
That's correct. But, on the other hand, if you're considered to be insane and your orders are, absolutely bonkers and against the Constitution,
will there be enough people in the institutions, whether it's Congress, the military, law enforcement, or whatever? You don't know. I mean, you look at Border Patrol and Homeland Security, and they are basically a fascist military organization.
Yeah, remember that Obama tried to rein them in, and they basically ignored him.
Blew him off.
Yeah.
But they love Trump, So
they love Trump.
So if it's like
he's my boy.
If you've got your own, military organization,
he does.
That gives you tremendous leverage.
Plus, there's a crazy militia people like in southern Missouri who have vowed that they will rise up if their boy Trump gets impeached with their guns.
Which I don't think there's enough of them to make a whit of difference.
Hopefully it's like a circular firing squad. They shoot each other.
Well, but here's the thing. So in the meantime, like the Russians are starting to,
salivate.
No, get sweaty.
Now, why is that?
Well, because they see what's going on in the White House. You look at, John Kelly's chief of staff is leaving.
Butina.
He offers to, the job to somebody, people go, no, I don't want the job.
Yeah.
So now they're talking about, well, who could take it? Maybe Jared Kushner. Well,
Chris Christie's being invited back.
Yeah, good luck, Chris,
So Jared.
So Jared is, in the inner circle.
You're right.
So he's like, nobody wants to come into that inner circle because, you think of his family, they don't have the sitting president immunity. Now, they could be pardoned by the president for certain things. But again, if it's like a state crime,
outside the federal jurisdiction,
then they don't have that immunity.
And they're from New York, so the SDNY is looking at them as well, apparently.
So, we'll see about that. But, that is all making a lot of the Republicans very nervous because they're seeing that, when the House changes next year and the Democrats start doing investigations and more of this stuff comes out and the details more and more, it is a building, momentum. It is a rising tide.
So you know what song they'd be singing, Matt?
Baby, it's cold outside. And so, like, you mentioned Bettina,
who flipped.
Yeah, she's
the non-spy spy.
She's the young gal that cultivated the NRA and the right-wing Republicans. And there's question of whether she brought Russian money to the NRA because the NRA spent $30 million in the 26 campaign to get Trump elected. Yeah. And that's more than they ever had before, and it's dropped since then. But people are going, where'd all that money come from?
No more free coffee. Right, where'd it come from? So she's the one that, and she knows Russian oligarchs. Putin says he doesn't know who she is and never met her.
Right, exactly.
Which doesn't mean anything because he could be a liar too. In fact,
he is a liar.
All right, there we go.
Know that.
Right, all right. So anyway, even if she doesn't know him, she knows oligarchs who have money who would definitely want to be have Trump owe them.
She was tightly involved with a guy who was a Russian senator who was buddies with Putin.
There we go.
And he's the guy that came here to America with her and helped funded her little, influence campaign.
All right.
And she pleaded guilty, right? So to being an unregistered, agent.
Right.
It's not quite the same as working for a
spy
agency, but it's
close.
It's bad enough.
It's a civilian spy.
And so, like, the NRA is starting to feel the heat, right? It's starting to show up in places like this, Jim. So, for instance, in this last midterm election, a number of Republicans wouldn't cash the checks from the NRA, and they refused to,
So they're seeing the writing on the wall.
Yeah, and of course during the election, a lot of NRA supporters got their hats handed to them, and they lost, and so now there's much less support, and of course then there's the pressure of the kids from Parkland High School who have
excellent
been
group of people
waging their campaign to get reasonable gun laws passed. So the NRA's feeling it. The NRA's been tight with
they're not
Trump
letting
in the circle.
That's right.
And so, pretty much the Republicans everywhere they turn. Well, the whole, Donnie Chucky Nancy show, puts them in a corner because, they are going to alienate their base if they don't try to get Trump his $5 billion for the wall.
And we just already talked about how that's not going to happen.
It's impossible.
And Nancy was able to get Trump to say, and Chuck too, get Trump to say, a shutdown of the government will be on me. It'll be my shutdown. Yeah. Nobody wants a shutdown.
That means the Republicans don't.
Right before Christmas, right?
Now, for the last several months, the Republicans and Trump have been trying to say, well, it's going to be Chuck Schumer shutdown.
Right, Chuck Schumer.
Schumer shutdown, they were calling it. Schumer shutdown.
Nancy, she did the moniker Trump shutdown. He's like, what?
Yeah,
what? I thought it was the Nancy shutdown.
But then he totally said, I'm proud to own the shutdown.
Proud to own it. What a dope.
Because security, it's like those hordes of diseased, drug-dealing mass murderers at our borders.
He owned him. Well, people are saying this is like a reality show, but you got to remember, yes, it's in a way it's entertaining, Matt, but there are consequences.
In a very sick sort of way.
There are. There are human consequences to what's happening, and the shutdown, these people are not going to be paid. It's going to affect everybody in a certain way, and so it's not just a reality show, which is basically brain candy. This stuff, what they're doing, has very serious consequences for many people.
That's right. And in fact, they're saying, not only are the parks going to be shut down, large portions of the government already have funding in place to continue. But one of the departments that will be affected by the shutdown is Homeland Security and Border Patrol.
Which might not be bad at all. Just let's say all the Border Patrol people say, oh, okay, leave the doors open, we're leaving.
Yeah, we're not paid, we're not showing up.
Enjoy the United States.
Then the hordes will come,
They will. They'll all come flooding through. And wouldn't it be great to have that? Wouldn't we have a wonderful time? Because
it'd be hilarious.
Wow, the whole economy could get a boost because the people who come in are looking for work. They're looking for safety. They just want to work and they pay their taxes.
And employers are desperate for workers right now.
They are desperate for
all
workers.
over the country. So that would just be it's like the movie. Did you ever see the movie A Day Without a Mexican?
I did. All of a sudden they disappear. Yeah.
So it's like a little science fiction story where suddenly throughout the country all the Mexicans just disappear overnight. And
think about it.
It shows how people, the nanny's gone. She's not there to drive the kids to school, and mom has to cope with it.
All the laborers are gone.
All the farm workers are gone.
Yeah.
Wait, there's no lettuce? What? We can't get food.
That's right. We can't get food. Wait a minute. Come back.
It's like it's an excellent movie.
I like that.
The two Mooks. 2 thumbs up.
Right? Two thumbs up. Right. 4 thumbs up.
4 thumbs up.
Between us.
Day Without a Mexican.
There we go. Wow.
But like for instance, going back to this, Trump is getting nervous. Michael Cohen said he was acting to cover up, quote unquote, Trump's dirty deeds. And he says he regrets it.
So he walked to the dark side, and he admits this, Matt.
Yeah.
And what is Trump saying? Oh, he's lying. He's not telling the truth. I don't know who this Cohen guy is.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I never told him to do anything illegal.
But listen to how Trump says it. He always denies something. I never said it. And then when it comes out, people are finding out more and more that he actually did say it. He says, well, if I said it, it was I didn't do it, but if I did do it, it was not wrong.
Well, here's one of the quotes from his tweet yesterday. He said he claimed that he, quote, did nothing wrong with respect to campaign finance laws,
right,
end quote. Then he asserted that Cohen, quote, probably was not guilty.
Probably.
Right. Probably accepted
pleas. Okay.
He was pled. He got prosecuted. The judge certified it. It's like,
he's like,
probably.
Guilty. Yeah. Not guilty. Holy cow.
It was not guilty of even civil violations relating to the payment.
He must be innocent then.
To McDougal and Daniels. A view at odds with the view of many lawyers.
Yeah, and the whole judiciary. Wow.
God. So here's this gal, Joyce White Vance. She was a U.S. attorney in the Obama administration.
Okay.
And she actually says, she explained that Trump may be accustomed to a business environment in which people posture and deceive for a competitive advantage.
Holy cow. What a
sharp
bum.
Business practices.
Yeah.
I'm smart. I cheat on my taxes.
I cheat. And I don't pay
basically
people.
what Trump said,
earlier.
But she said she contrasted that atmosphere with the legal world in which prosecutors must operate at a high ethical standard because if they lie or cheat, they endanger their ability to continue practicing law.
How about that? So there are consequences to lying and cheating, but not in Trump's world before he was the president.
That's right. And so she says that federal prosecutors who implicated Trump in the illegal payments are likely to have relied on more evidence than just Cohen's testimony. She noted that other witnesses have been cooperating with the investigation, including Alan Weisselberg. You remember this guy? We talked about him before. He was the Trump Organization's longtime chief financial officer.
Oh, several sets of books. Baby, it's cold outside.
Oh, baby, it's cold outside. She says, quote, Trump should be concerned. It's not just the government saying it. It's not just a single witness saying it. Prosecutors in the Southern District of New York,
SDNY,
who are known for their rigor in making these assessments, have decided there's evidence from a number of reliable sources and that they can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
I hear Teddy Roosevelt saying, bully,
bully. Yeah.
So, Matt, my theory is this, is that Trump never expected to be elected president.
Well, that's true. He
was a terrible businessman. He was a bum, but he never would have gotten caught, probably never would have gotten caught until he became the president. And since he became the president, he kept business as usual, because that's all he knows. Unfortunately, everything he does has consequences beyond his little circle where he was able to wiggle out and lie his way out. Yeah. It's not going to happen anymore.
I forget who the columnist was, but I saw a headline that was like, getting elected was the worst thing he could do because
absolutely
now the lights are shining brighter and brighter.
Yeah, and I don't know whether you are familiar with the artwork of Jim Carrey, the actor.
Actually I am.
Okay, well, his latest one, it shows Trump and several other people in his party that have been
McConnell and Ryan
hauled up in this stuff as dominoes, and they're falling over, and each one says click, click, click as they fall, because the dominoes are indeed, it seems, falling. Although we don't really know yet what's happening with Mueller. He's letting things out a little bit.
But I'm feeling positive about this increasing crescendo, because here's another thing, Jim. Trump's his super PAC that he formed when he was running out of money in his campaign and was too cheap to fund it, even though he's really, really, really rich billionaire, billions.
I'm telling you,
his super PAC and his inaugural fund are also being investigated
because they're illegal use of funds.
Well, federal prosecutors are examining whether foreigners illegally funneled donations to the campaign fund or the inauguration fund.
Wow, good. Well, you know what? Here we go, Matt. I mean, you're right. They shine the lights on. Everything is under investigation.
Well, and you're talking about the federal prosecutor, Southern District of New York.
SDNY, baby.
So the new, let's see, what is it? The new state attorney general.
Yes.
Whose name is Letitia James.
Okay.
The incoming New York state attorney general plans sweeping investigations of Trump, his family, and anyone in his circle who may have violated the law.
Wow.
She says that includes his New York real estate holdings.
Oh, there we go.
And we all know that for 25 years he's been laundering money for the Russian mob by selling them. This happened thousands of times. Condos at way inflated prices, and not looking at where the money comes and lets them sell them and all that stuff, and that's been going on for years.
Underreported tax assessment value, so he doesn't have to pay as many taxes.
And including subsidies he got from the government for housing and stuff.
Right, illegal.
Yeah. She's actually going to look into the violation of the emoluments clause.
Finally.
Yeah. Well, there is a suit already in place that is wending its way through the courts.
Correct. And they try to have it be thrown out, and the judge says no, they can go through. And it's a suit, state of Maryland, and also I think D.C.
I think so.
For the Trump Hotel, where the Saudis rent a whole suite of rooms.
Yeah. Now the Attorney General is already suing the Trump Foundation and Trump and his kids for illegal coordination with his campaign.
Wow.
And self-dealing and violation of other legal requirements. So this is...
Maybe it's cold outside.
Oh, baby, it's coming in. And she's saying that, she thinks Mueller's doing an excellent job, and she says, quote, I think he's closing in on this president, and his days are going to be coming to an end shortly.
We're rejoicing here in the studio. We're throwing confetti, yahoo, and stuff, but Matt, it's going to be awful, I think. Towards the end, it's going to be like the death of a cockroach.
Like we said last week, he's not going to go down without a fight, and it's likely to get really ugly.
An insane fight. He's going to do everything he possibly can. He needs to be constrained and have put swaddled.
It's
swaddle the baby.
We see how Americans are not accurately represented by their electeds. For instance, gerrymandering and voter suppression, et cetera. Right. But there's really, Americans do have pretty, good human values, good progressive
Generally,
values.
I'd say
They want to protect the environment. They want a fair economy.
They want clean water.
They want people
air.
to have a good, minimum pay.
Pursuit of happiness.
All that stuff.
Yes.
I mean, those are things people would like to would love to see. Free education.
Please.
Universal health care. These are all American values, right?
That's right.
So they're not being represented by the Republican Congress or Trump and his administration. But you like to think that when push comes to shove, that there's enough of us who are not Trump blinded that there will be support across the country to support the federal prosecutors and the state attorney generals who are doing this work, and that there's enough people in the military and other branches of the government that actually would refuse to let him get away with pulling off a fascist coup.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
We don't know. But you know what, Matt? The thing is that does give me hope is that he did not win the popular vote.
That's right.
So the majority of Americans rejected him, did not want him to be the president.
Yeah.
And it was the Electoral College who basically did that.
And those who are not just utterly blinded by him are all the more motivated and devout in their opposition to him.
Well, look what happened with the election in the House of Representatives.
Absolutely.
They don't call it a blue wave anymore. It's the blue tsunami. I mean, it's incredible. These guys, and this is where they're also going to be able to subpoena his tax returns. We should be able to find out a heck of a lot of stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
So we're moving right along. Yeah. Holy cow!
Well, let's see. How about it's been a while, but let's talk about a little bit of positive stuff. Some of that's positive. Yes, go ahead.
This guy named Bob Wilson. He traveled from Los Angeles to Northern California with 2 suitcases full of $1,000 checks. He's 89 years old. He's a businessman. He was horrified when he read how the wildfire had ravaged the town of Paradise and left 90% of its high school students homeless. Determined to help, he spent hours writing checks for each of the school's 980 students and 105 teachers, administrators, custodians, and bus drivers. Wilson then trekked 500 miles north to the city of Chico, near Paradise, where he handed out the $1.1 million worth of checks in person. And he says, good intentions are just good intentions, he said, unless you act on them.
That's good. I think I think you did mention that last week. This is more detailed. Wow, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
That guy
I like that.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah. Okay. So Nancy Pelosi looks like she's going to be Speaker of the House.
She is the consummate deal maker. She's the consummate one to know how to pull the levers to get government working in her favor.
She's huge at raising money.
Huge at raising money.
Which is good and bad.
Good and bad. It's a two-edged sword.
Because that's the corporate leaders of the Democratic Party have been a roadblock, and she is one of those.
Right.
But she does. But here's how that worked out.
Yeah.
So basically, there were some people further on the left and some who were more conservative Democrats, middle-of-the-road Democrats, saying, Nancy, it's time for you and number two, Steny Hoyer, to go.
She's aged.
Yeah, you're old, you're in the way.
Yeah.
Some of them are afraid of how she's been a target of the Republicans. I don't think that's really all that germane when push comes to shove. But what she did do, she negotiated with a lot of those people, gave some of them like committee seats and things.
Right, which we mentioned on the show before, which is great.
But the main thing is that she agreed that she would not serve more than 4 more years as the Speaker of the House.
Smart move.
And the Democrats are going to change their internal rules to say that she and Steny Hoyer and James Clyburn, who's the number 3 in the Democratic Party, will not have more than 4 more years in those positions. Now, personally, I would say Nancy should be gone in 2 years. But what they're doing to change the rules is that when she comes up for a vote again in 2 years, because they're all 2-year terms, that she has to get at least 2/3 of the Democrats. Well, she's probably going to do that, but if there were a lot of people that were unhappy in these next 2 years,
she blows it in the next 2 years.
Yeah, then they could say, no, you're not it,
Matt,
and they could elect somebody else.
What's not to like about that? Plus, I think the coup de grace, or the icing on the cake, is the way she handled Donald Trump. Of the Nancy, Chuck, and Donnie show, she came off as the mature one, the mommy, basically, who had held it together and got concessions from Donald, or an admission from Donald, not concessions, but admission. Well, so she came out as the winner in that.
She came out pretty well.
Really well.
And Schumer got some good licks in there, too.
He did. He did indeed. But
so that was good.
Yeah.
But
again, she came out smelling like a rose, and that's the way you do it.
Yeah. So the other good thing is that Steny Hoyer and James Clyburn are both in this deal too, so that because I mean they're all in their late 80s. It's time for them to move on.
But you know what? That's one of the things I hated about term limits is that you kick the people out who have the experience. So every so many years you get new people in who don't know anything. So it's nice that Nancy's there and Steny Hoyer and Clyburn that they can maybe mentor these new people coming in to teach them the ropes, to show them how it's done, and let them put their own spin on things, and then they can step aside.
Let's hope. I mean, because if you flip it over also, you can, I was always opposed to term limits and still am, but on the other hand, if you've got institutionalized dysfunction,
Not good.
That can go on and on and on.
Absolutely.
So, and money is the poison of, and even though Jess Unruh said it's the mother's milk of politics, it's really the poison.
Citizens United, right? Yeah, that's a good example right there.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's a good week, Matt, and this is especially good for the holidays for Wiccans.
Oh.
They now outnumber Presbyterians in the U.S., according to a report in the ChristianPost.com. Wicca, which encompasses a number of pantheistic belief systems, including witchcraft, now has 1.5 million adherents compared to 1.4 million Presbyterians. So if you're a Presbyterian, Matt, might as well give it up. Yeah, be a Wiccan.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. It's not just devil worship; it's worship of nature.
That's the primary foundation.
How about that?
Of Wicca. That's
true.
Right.
The horned god was actually like nature.
Yeah. Well, speaking in nature, there's the conference of the parties going on in Katowice, Poland.
Yeah.
The International Climate Conference, and of course,
what do they come away with?
Well, Trump's energy and climate advisor Wells Griffith was touting.
Perfect name, Wells.
I know. Yeah, oil wells.
Right.
They probably call him. It was touting "quote unquote" clean coal for economic
No
prosperity
way.
And energy security to the gathering of a couple hundred people.
Yeah, right.
And they all started just laughing out loud. And they started yelling. It's like,
good for them.
They started yelling, "Shame on you," and keep it in the ground.
Good.
And they heckled that guy for 10 minutes. And then I guess Amy Goodman, from Democracy Now.
Our sister station.
Yeah, was trying to interview the guy, and he's running away from her. But, it's like, it's like so crazy how stupid these guys are.
And they think that other people are as stupid as they are.
Yeah, and it's like, choice to die of, black lung or suffocation from,
poisoning.
Coal. Yeah. So, I mean,
God.
That was gratifying to see that people just stand up and...
the good Lord.
Oh, God.
So, Matt, there was a New Mexico couple who applied for a marriage license in Washington, D.C. They were delayed because the clerk thought New Mexico was a foreign country. Did you hear about that? Kevin Clarkson says the clerk refused to accept his driver's license as ID and asked instead for his New Mexico passport. The Marriage Bureau later apologized for the clerk's failure to recognize New Mexico's 106-year history as a state.
Where did that
This is in D.C.
Oh, God.
I know, right?
Ignorance abounds.
Yeah. So, and remember, D.C. is not a state, boys and girls. It's the District of Columbia.
And evidently New Mexico isn't either. Well, Jim, you remember the ugly, white nationalist demonstration in Charlottesville,
I
Virginia.
do. Yeah, that's a terrible
thing.
And
this guy, James Field, he's the little creep that backed up his Dodge
Nazi
and then rammed into a crowd. He injured dozens and killed Heather Heyer.
Yeah.
Well, he was just convicted of first-degree murder.
Woohoo!
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to be spending life in prison.
Good. Yeah. Rot in prison.
May he rot in prison, and then when he dies, may he rot in hell. He claimed that, he was afraid for his life, having seen violent clashes between the white supremacists and counter-demonstrators.
What?
The jury didn't buy it for a minute.
Good.
It didn't help when they played his phone call to his mom, where he referred to Heather Heyer's mother as the enemy.
Whoa.
And so...
all right, so the truth comes out in the pudding.
Yeah, so good riddance to him.
Good riddance to him, too. Also, Matt, speaking of terrorism, there's a Rhode Island town that has been terrorized for 6 months by a belligerent wild turkey.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Originally...
Is it an ISIS turkey?
It might be. Originally, there were 3 turkeys who stood guard outside the town hall and began rushing at anyone who tried to go inside. They were scaring people away, says the mayor. 2 of the fowl were caught and released elsewhere, but 1 has learned to recognize the animal control officer's car and has raced away from every capture attempt for 6 months.
Oh, my God.
Meanwhile, he has stopped traffic, trapped people in their cars with vicious pecking, and chased pedestrians down the street. This guy, he's like Al Capone and John Dillinger, the mayor says.
Oh, my God.
Right? All they need is
just when you think we've hit bottom.
just get a hatchet. Oh, sorry to those vegans out there. All right, then a trap.
Well,
I have a heart.
It's self-defense.
There you go. I'll eat you.
3 of them outside City Hall. What's going on in City Hall?
Well, they captured 2 of them, so it's only 1.
Do those turkeys know something that the citizens don't?
I tell you, there's a turkey in every government, man. Yeah. Uh-oh. Right. Uh-oh. Push your button there. Here you go.
Thank you.
You back? You back? Yeah, good.
Technical
Can't do without my co-host.
Flailing around here. I'm not sure we should stream our show live here where people can see how we're bumbling around.
We'll have to put you back in a straitjacket. That'll keep you from pushing buttons.
You think that'll help?
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, Jim, one of the bummers of the week was that now the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, the Environmental Conservation Agency, is going to cut freshwater protections for wetlands, vernal pools, seasonal creeks, and rivers.
Too much fresh water. We have too much clean water here.
Yeah, the Clean Water Act rolled back on non-navigable waters. Will impact 1/3 of U.S. water drinking supplies.
1/3 of our water supply. So it'll all be like Flint, Michigan.
Yeah, and it also impacts, wildland habitats for most migratory birds and other species,
including the grouse.
Yeah, and and basically what the problem is that this was a big battle under Obama's administration where environmentalists and people that are want clean
and responsible
drinking water
and air
are saying that. Vernal pools and seasonal streams, if they're polluted and damaged, that does in the wintertime run into the bigger rivers and lakes. And
Right.
And so, developers and, mining companies and agribiz are going, no, we want to pollute. And so now this is a gift to those people. Their talking points to make this change say the previous administration's 2015 rule wasn't about water quality. It was about power. Power in the hands of the federal government over farmers, developers, and the landowners. It's like,
just
good God, people.
In it.
And this would actually impact 80% of California's freshwater supplies if California didn't have its own regulatory safeguards in place.
But we do.
Yeah.
All right,
but
California.
now, a lot of places in the rest of the country, the states aren't ready to step up to the plate and protect their water. So like you say, what's good for Flint, Michigan is good for America.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Well, it's too bad that other people don't follow California's ways instead of just saying California's a bunch of like granola full of flakes, nuts, and fruits.
And some of them do, where our fuel efficiency standards. There's 13 states that follow.
That's right.
Of course, you may have seen where. It's come out now that since the beginning of the Trump administration, the oil industry is the big power player that has pushed the Trump administration to loosen those fuel efficiency standards.
Well, shut my mouth.
So it's like, no, because there's such a glut of oil now
that's
that
too much. We're washing
Americans deserve the choice of the type of vehicle they want to drive. If they want to drive a maximum polluting monster 12-mile-a-gallon SUV, they should have that right.
They have that right. It's a freedom.
It's so good that the oil corporations are looking out for our best interest.
And the 2019 model of one of the Chevy trucks gets less miles per gallon than the 2018. How about that? Right. And Ryan Zinke, who is the Interior Secretary, oh my gosh, he's having a war of words with Arizona. Raul Grijalva, I think, from Arizona. He called Zinke's resignation last week in an op-ed published in USA Today, accusing him of ethical and managerial failings that have led to 17 formal probes of Zinke and his department.
Right.
But Zinke fires back and accused Grijalva of being drunk, saying it's hard for him to think straight from the bottom of a bottle. Unbelievable. Yeah. Right? These are U.S. government officials who are
a huge department head.
I think it's called ad hominem attacks. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so on this water protection rollback,
sorry about
historically, all the federal water cleanup projects were for damage done to intermittent streams flowing into major navigable rivers or lakes.
So intermittent means like
seasonal, so you've got a creek, it dries up in the summer, but it runs in the winter.
Right, like down south in Death Valley.
And we see it here in the mountains around here. And
right.
But the really ugly thing is that this rule, if passed, would prevent the EPA from any enforcement activity leaving it all to the states.
Prevent them.
Yeah,
Holy
prevent them.
cow.
Yeah.
Man, Matt, when the Democrats come back in power, which they will eventually, it's going to take years for them to undo the chaos the damage that the Trump administration.
Well, they're going to. The House is going to have its plate full because they're talking about, they want to work on health care.
Yes.
Improve Obamacare.
Yes.
They want to work on education.
Yes.
They want to get an infrastructure bill passed.
Please,
Trump promised, and Republicans
have done nothing
the
about. The new WPA.
Exactly.
Put people to work to
do
this.
And they still have plenty to investigate in all this criminal activity.
Well, it's not just Trump; it's his entire administration.
Exactly. All the scumbags, right?
Wow.
So,
Okay. So, all right. Well, here's something. This is a good week for virtual pheromones, Matt, with news that scientists at Malaysia's Imagineering Institute are working on digital smell technology that could soon allow the users of online dating services to smell odors to one another, or send odors to one another. How about that? If I were in that position, thank God I'm not, I'd just send chocolate chip cookies or baked bread.
Yeah. Apple pie.
Yeah. Broccoli.
Not your dirty socks.
Pan fried Brussels sprouts.
Better have a lot of bacon and garlic in there.
There we go.
All right, Jim. So the Farm Bill, the 5-year Farm Bill, finally passed.
Yeah, good thing or bad thing?
Well, mostly good. Now, a lot of the Farm Bill subsidizes agribiz. That's not great.
Not good.
But in this particular one, it does expand farm subsidies. But one of the good things about this is it legalizes the production of hemp, which has been outlawed under the specious, lumping it together with marijuana.
Which is from the same plant, but without the THC, which just gets you high.
And, hemp makes the best quality rope in the world.
Hemp rope.
It's
it's my belt. My rope belt.
That's when you're wearing your priest uniform.
That's right, and it's what I floss my teeth with. Or the gap in my teeth, I use hemp.
That's right. That's why they look so, we'll go on.
Shiny? Shiny? White?
It also provides money for farmers markets and organic farming programs.
No way. How'd that get in there?
Yeah, that's good, right?
It's
but
really
the best
good.
thing about this is the Republicans wanted to put a bunch of work requirements, even worse than they already exist, on people to get food stamps. As beat them while they're down,
Right, what if they can't work? What are the people who can't work?
And, it's not like people are on food stamps. Maybe there's one or two lazy, but most people are there because they absolutely need them in their desperate.
What was
and
it Reagan
just
talking
punishing
about?
People.
The welfare Cadillac, the Cadillac Queens, the welfare queens is what he called
exactly,
it.
Which was a lie then, too.
Of course, right.
So that did not get in there, so that makes that Farm Bill come out pretty good.
Wow. Okay, so it's a bad week also. I mean, it's a good week for that, Matt, but, the Farm Bill is always the one that they always put all these riders in. You get some good things. It's good and bad things. It sounds like for something happened, there's all these good things. Maybe that the Republicans are running a little scared after what happened at the last election, and they're starting to say, well, we'll loosen up a little bit.
Yeah, do something for our constituents for a change.
Yeah, but this is
not
bad.
Just the big money one.
Right, exactly right. It's a bad week for tingling, with reports that the former head of Vermont's Air National Guard was forced to retire because he used an F-16 to pursue an extramarital affair. He used the supersonic fighter to fly from Washington, D.C. to see a woman who he said in a gushing email, always makes me smile and tingle.
Boy, that's expensive.
Yeah, tingle. I get tingling when I see dark chocolate and a nice cup of coffee.
Yeah, well, all right, here's some good news. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, our heroine,
AOC,
is newly elected to Congress. She is going to pay her congressional interns, and it's going to be more than minimum wage. She's going to pay them $15 an hour.
This woman is amazing.
Yeah,
I heard.
Great.
Right,
and she's really kind of catalyzing a lot of. Even Chuck Schumer had, advertised for an intern, and it was going to be no pay.
For free, right? Yes.
And it's like, then she does this, and suddenly, oh, that's a mistake.
He kind of walked that back.
He did.
Yeah.
And, so this has been like one of the channels for well-to-do, the kids of the well-to-do to get involved in the power circles.
Okay.
They can afford to be subsidized by their families
mom and dad,
or their parents.
Sure, right.
Yeah, and work for free. I mean, the working conditions are harsh. They have.
How can you afford a place to live in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, exactly. And, they are typically paid 20% less than what they get if they were in the private sector.
Unbelievable.
They work long hours. It's very high stress.
Yeah.
They have cramped workspaces. And so, and Congress has long been a bastion of a lack of diversity, and fair pay and worker protections, and now she's shaking it up.
Isn't that something? So she's making it available to anyone low income to do this, and perhaps have shared housing.
Yeah.
AOC, you can follow her on Instagram and also on Twitter.
Okay.
She's opening things up, Matt, to give us a glimpse of what it's like as a freshman coming in. And what I really admire about her, when for some reason the Republicans are attacking her, and she's
dangerous to them.
She claps back. Exactly. She thinks about it for a little bit and then comes right back and does zingers and shuts them up.
And she's great. And so this whole action on her part really helps equalize the opportunities for people that want to get involved in the government.
Who may not otherwise be able to, because they may not have some sort of funding to do that.
Exactly.
That's really good. I like that. So parents of elementary school pupils in affluent Darien, Connecticut are protesting a new ban on their visiting their children at lunchtime, Matt. School officials say the number of parents descending on K-5 schools every lunchtime to check on their children's welfare had become disruptive and undermined the pupils' self-reliance. The new policy feels like a punch in the gut. Parents.
So the parents are
helicopter parents early on.
Lunchtime, all the parents would descend on the school.
and bring their lunches to the kids, or who knows.
Good Lord. Here's another bit of good news. So Mitch McConnell, who's not good news.
No, don't like that guy.
But he's finally going to let the Senate vote on the criminal justice reform bill.
Now, why? Why is he doing?
Well, because he's run out of time. I mean, he's delayed it for 3 years, but this has strong bipartisan support from people on the left and the right, even on the right. Even the Koch brothers support this.
They do?
Yeah, and so finally, maybe, and this is the one where it could potentially let a lot of people out of prison who were like disproportionately punished for, say, like crack cocaine versus powder cocaine. It's been a very the justice
What about the woman who
criminal justice has been very racist in the country for a long time, and this would take us a big step towards fixing that problem.
Good. So if you look at the prison population by race compared to the outside population, it's definitely not the same.
Oh, it's disproportionately black and Hispanic.
Yeah, exactly right.
So that'll be good to see. And another good vote in the Senate was, once again, the Senate voted to get out of the war in Yemen.
The war in Yemen. And that was overwhelming, the vote of that. So that's good. And that's a rebuke to Trump and his administration because of the Saudi Arabia bull.
That's right.
I almost said the word, bullpucky.
And they actually voted unanimously to state that it was Mohammed bin Salman who had Khashoggi murdered.
Yes, MSB. So they all agreed that he actually did that. Even Trump said basically the jury's out. Not cool at all.
That's right, yeah.
Wow. So Matt, if you've ever thought maybe you've missed your calling, here's something for you. A 7-year-old who reviews toys is the highest paid YouTube star. He's 7 years old. He earns, guess how much?
$1 million.
$22 million. His name is Ryan. His YouTube channel is Ryan Toys Review, has garnered 26 billion views and 17.3 billion followers since his parents set him up on YouTube channel in 2015. It's only been 3 years. Nearly all the money is generated from ads shown before the videos, which he posts nearly every day. He bested YouTube star Jake Paul by $500,000 in third place.
How much did he make, Tom?
$22 million. All he does, he opens up toys. He opens up toys, assembles them, plays with them, and talks about them. That's what he does. I've seen his stuff.
You can make $22 million doing that.
I bought a lot of the toys that he has. They're really great. I mean, and the ones he doesn't like, I don't like them either. Yeah, he actually, I follow my fashion, my clothing thing on his choice. That's not true, but anyway.
Let's hope not.
Pretty. There's hope for us out there, Matt.
Boy, that's pretty interesting, Jim. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
That's really crazy. Think what his skewed life is going to be like when he gets to be
like 11. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Oh God. Technology is such a double-edged sword. Recently, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, which is Ajit Pai, who's the head of that, is up to its dirty deeds again.
Net neutrality thing.
Yeah, well, this one is similar. They just classified your standard text messages on your phone as something called an information source as opposed to a telecommunications.
What's the difference?
An information service versus telecommunications service.
Okay, what's the difference?
Well, telecommunications service is regulated like a utility.
Okay.
Information service is not regulated like a utility. So what this means is that ISPs, internet service providers, and carriers can now block and censor your text messages.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So this is an outgrowth in 2007. NARAL Pro-Choice was sending out text blasts to their people saying, call your congressperson.
Right.
And I think it was Verizon blocked them.
Oh.
Well, so and then NARAL, hollered, and then it became public, so Verizon quickly backed off. But this actually gives them the legal ability to do that again.
Now, has it passed, or is it?
It's not a law. It's the FCC's rule, so they have the administrative ability to do this.
But have they done it yet?
So they just voted and changed it. So we're going to have to watch that and see what's going to happen there, because the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, have all used the texting as a tool.
I get texts like that,
Yeah, and so
it can be censored.
Yeah, it could be censored and blocked.
Can this be reversed by any branch of the government? Or
well, I mean, this would be where get rid of Trump, replace Ajit Pai.
Yeah, and then reverse all of that damage. Here we go again.
There's only one Democrat on there, so the rest it's 4 Republicans and 1 Democrat.
Oh, that's balanced. So in other words, the Democrat basically can't say anything, or he can say something, but it's falling on deaf ears.
It's going to be outvoted every time.
Yeah, not good.
Well, Jim, we're coming up to the top of the hour. I did want to point out one other thing. I'm reading a book called Giants by Professor Peter Phillips.
He's about big things.
Yeah, very big. He's the guy that founded Project Censored at Sonoma State.
So he's definitely a Sonoma boy.
Yeah, and now that's being run by Mickey Huff. Really good project where their classes researched underreported stories by the mainstream media.
Censored maybe too?
And censored, and they've brought out, much important information in the 20-some years.
What a great class. Yeah, really good.
Now, his book, Giants, is basically exposes the transnational capitalist class, who they are, how much money they control, and how they call the shots.
The transnationalist capitalist class.
Transnational capitalist class.
In other words, worldwide.
So we've mentioned before on the show that there's now, as of last year, 2017, 8 men own as much wealth in the world as half of the world's population.
Wow.
That's down from 62 people in 2016. But he talks about the 199 people on interconnected boards of directors of 17 asset management firms. Now, each one of these firms controls more than $1 trillion. And when you put the 17 of them together, they control over $41.1 trillion. As he says,
I can't even imagine.
It's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
$1 trillion is 1,000 billions, right?
1,000 billions.
Yes. And so $41 trillion. And so these guys actually are calling the shots in how the world is run.
Ooh, mad dark web.
Yeah, I mean, and their whole interest is in maintaining protection of capital.
Of course.
And they do that through worldwide organizations such as the G7, the G20, the Trilateral Commission, you remember them?
I certainly do.
The Group of 30, NATO, the International Monetary Fund, the Atlantic Council, Davos, etc.
So their fingers are in everything.
Everything.
Because they want to preserve their capital and keep getting more power.
They have more money and more power than most countries in the world.
All the gods.
And so, and then they, like the Koch brothers, they buy up councilmen people, and then they have their militaries supporting them. It's an interesting book. It's a book to read. It's dry in parts, and there's a lot of lists.
No pictures either, I bet.
No pictures. Yeah. But it's definitely, they point out that the inequality gap is growing, and, that these
So what do we do? Is there a solution?
Well, so what he's saying is that, learn about this, read about this, find out who they are, where they are, because we do have to change it. And there are people within that group actually who do have some sensibilities to the fact that they are running us off the cliff just through blind,
so they have conscience. Not all of them are just like greedy pigs.
Yeah, so that's Giants by Peter Phillips.
Oh, what a lovely way to stop this
all right, Jim,
for this week.
We've done it again, folks. This is two Mooks and a mic.
We did it. All right, time to go?
Time to go. Thanks for listening.
Got here. All right, everybody. Have a great week.
Check in with us next week.
See you next week.
We'd love to have you listen to us. And
we just love you.
That's right.
All right, remember, baby, it's cold outside.
Baby, it's cold out there.